Hi, it's Dale Beaumont from Secrets Exposed. This is the series that takes you up close and personal with world-leading business experts. And our topic for this interview is how to turn adversity into massive success. That coming up in just a moment. My special guest today is highly experienced entrepreneur Barry Bull, and he's going to be talking about how to turn adversity into massive success. He's got an amazing story, and I can't wait for you to meet him and for him to share his secrets to business success. Barry, welcome to our studio.
Good to be with you, Dale.
So tell us a little bit about where your entrepreneurial journey began. When did you become an entrepreneur?
Well, it all began with a song when I was a teenager. I've always loved music, and when I heard the Shadows play Apache on their Fender guitar, it just captured me. I knew what I wanted to do with my life. It was like a door opened and the rest of my life was waiting on the other side. So I went and bought a Fender guitar. It cost a lot of money in those days. I had to import it. And then I formed a band. And I knew that I wanted a path in music, and so I played in a band for about 10 years. I got discovered and signed to a record company. It wasn't a recording contract, my band wasn't that good. It was an employment contract to work for one of the biggest record companies on the planet, CBS Records, who are now Sony Music.
Right.
And I opened the very first branch in Queensland for CBS Records in 1969. Put my guitar in a case where it stayed for the next 40 years. And pursued this love of music. Within a few years, I was transferred to Sydney and I became Director of Marketing for CBS Australia. And that was the job that took me around the world and just put me face to face with global celebrities and superstars. It was fantastic for a young guy to be in the middle of the hub of where music was made and to work with music makers. But after about 10 years, I began to burn out. I had a young family. I wasn't balancing my business values with my family values very well. So in 1981, after a feeling that if I could do it for CBS, I could do it for myself, and after giving rock and roll the best years of my life, I've loved that line, I resigned from CBS and I returned to Brisbane where I grew up, and I bought a small music store in the north side of Brisbane called Toombul Music. And that was when my independent career began of owning my own business.
So that was 35 years ago, so a few decades there in terms of business. Now tell us a bit about, you said the passion was really in music, and so you knew that it was going to be a business in that space.
Well, I didn't have any money when I bought the business. Like most small business people, they start out with a vision. This is what I love. How can I share this passion of music with others? And being a retailer, it was a wonderful conduit to be able to do that. So I really needed to do something special because I didn't have any marketing money, and because I worked with the celebrities at CBS with a record company, I understood how they thought. And there's a mechanism in the music industry, Dale, called the charts. And in every industry, you have to understand the triggers that drive that industry. And in the music industry, it's the chart. Even to this day, every record company, every artist, every producer, they're all trying to have a #1 on the ARIA charts, as you know. And that tradition has existed all those years. And I wondered if I could give these celebrities, artists, a chart at my store by selling enough product to be able to drive enough sales to be of value to them in the chart. So I worked on that for quite a while. It took me quite a while, but presenting celebrities on the centre stage became my point of difference. It just was the edge that I needed. So all of a sudden, these celebrities started to come and do promotions with me. It was great for the cash register because we sold a lot of product, but it was a win-win for everybody. It was great for the artist because we were able to give them a chart. It was great for the shopping centre owner because we packed their shopping centre. And it's slowly over the years, it began to make our business famous because we were the first to do this. And here's a short video I'd like to show you of how it worked.
Fantastic. Let's roll to that video right now.
Sir Cliff Richard.
Thanks, Barry, for sharing that video. So I want to ask you now, if you could just summarise that business that you had over nearly 3 decades, what were the 3 biggest factors that led to that business's success?
Well, I had this experience coming from a record company where I was in the comfort zone of corporate culture. So I was paid well, I was looked after, and I had a career asset. But when you go into your own business, that's a different story. So here I am out by myself, on my own, fearful, and not a lot of money. So I had to create a way, find ways to attract customers to us. I was in a suburban shopping centre, and it wasn't an A-grade shopping centre, but it was nevertheless, I wondered how could I bring not only the audience, music lovers of the north side of Brisbane to my store, but Brisbane, how to do it. So I set about finding my niche. So the first thing I did was finding my point of difference, finding my niche. And my niche was to be the conduit between the people who made the music and the people who bought the music. After all, I was a retailer, and that's the basic fundamental of retailing, is how seamlessly you take a product to your customer. Which brings me to the second important point, was creating a memorable experience. When they visited our store, giving them an experience that they would remember for a long time.
How did you do that?
Well, we would, for example, we were a music business. We had all these listening headphones in those days, and people could come in and listen. And I had a young guy came up to me just recently, and he said, "You know what I loved about your store? I was in my school days, and all we kids would leave school and come down to your shop and listen to the new records, recordings, new songs on your headphones, and you never said no. You always allowed us to do it. And you know what? Over the years, as I got married, I kept coming back to your store. My kids kept going, and so creating a memorable experience. But the most memorable experience of all, of course, was when we presented those celebrities. Because where can you get to meet and greet a superstar like Cliff Richard or Michael Crawford? And we gave them that opportunity because they were able to get in line, meet the celebrity, get a personal autographed copy of the CD, and their photograph taken.
Fantastic.
And
maybe one more?
There's one more, and that was winning awards. I felt that how do I stand out? And the best way for small business to be noticed is win awards. So I set my sights on winning as many retail awards as I could. Now, we were in a Westfield shopping centre, and in those years, Westfield's had an awards program called Retail Awards for Retail Excellence. And over the next 10 years, we went on to win over 30 Westfield awards. We won the National Specialty Retailer Award 3 times, and there were 3,000 retailers in that category. They eventually inducted our business into the Westfield Hall of Fame. Then they presented me with a Westfield Legend Award, and of course what happened was I and our business became famous. And it didn't cost anything. When you win an award, the media gravitate to the accreditation that you've been given. So winning awards was very important to us to get noticed.
Now, I can imagine having had that business for nearly 30 years. Tell me about do you have any memorable stories or a special moment that you might want to share with us?
Well, probably the biggest special moment and the biggest discovery I made was when I realised that no was negotiable. Dale, I hate taking no for an answer because I find that 90% of people give up when they're 10% from achieving their goals. And the word that stops them is no. And I was getting all the no's in the world, trying to get supplier support, money to do advertising and marketing. So I came up with this notion that no is negotiable. And it was when I developed my secret weapon that it really made a difference. Can I show you my secret weapon?
Sure, tell us about it.
My secret weapon is
got
this
it there.
rubber
Great.
stamp.
Okay.
And on the end of that rubber stamp are the words, no is negotiable. So when I had a negative given to me, could be by a staff member, it could be by a supplier, it could be by the landlord, I would stamp this rubber stamp all over wherever, their wrist, their forehead, or a fax in those days, or letters of rejection. Yes, Barry, we'd love to participate, but we're out of money. I would stamp this all over that letter of rejection and send it back to them. And this created a reaction. It created a communication. Why? What is this no is negotiable? It was cheeky, it was fun. And you have to have fun in business. But it created communication, Dale. And you've got to have communication to negotiate. And I found that I was, for example, I would say to a supplier in the electronics business, I'm trying to get money to put some money into our Christmas catalogue. And I'd say to Mr. Pioneer or whoever it was, I've got the Harvey Norman catalogue in my right hand and you're in it. And I've got the Retrovision catalogue in my left and you're in it. And you'll say, no, you won't help me. And yet it was retailers like me who helped develop your brand in the first place. And we would always be able to negotiate a positive out of that. So I trademarked this brand, No Is Negotiable.
Oh, you did?
I started to write books about it because it's so powerful.
Fantastic.
So it's the best message of my career that I could leave with your listeners, your audience, is that the fact that never accept no for an answer, because it's like accepting a response to somebody else's mediocrity. The word to me, no, is so mediocre, and you can break through it. So 90% of people give up when they're 10% from achieving their goals, and the word that stops them is no. And I was able to take that notion and that topic to the conference stage and begin to talk to other retailers about how to break through and achieve the success they need.
Fantastic, great. I'm loving this interview. We've still got more to come. We're speaking with Barry Bull, and we'll take a short break and back in a moment. Welcome back to this interview with Barry Bull. We promised we were going to talk about how to turn adversity into massive success. So we're now going to talk a little bit about that adversity and some of the challenges that Barry faced and how he dealt with them. So Barry, tell us a bit about what happened eventually to the business and why it was eventually shut down. So let's talk about that, and then we'll work backwards and talk about the steps that led to it.
Well, it's a very interesting topic because in a digital world today, the digital world is changing everything that's physical. What we used to go out and buy and value, now we can either buy online or we can download. And the music industry, as you know, was the very first business that was affected by the digital revolution.
Yes.
And I saw this coming around about 2001, where we had 20 years of huge CD and DVD sales, particularly CD, that was our core business. But in 2001, the industry peaked and CD sales started to decline, and they kept declining and have done ever since. And I saw that the threat to physical distribution was really out of my control. It was not, no matter all the marketing that I did, it was still only propping up a failing distribution system, because by then Apple had iTunes, they were selling songs for $1.50, so it was very easy to attain the songs you wanted without buying an album. And of course there was the profitability being eroded, and then piracy became a huge issue with the industry, because people with MP3 files, they can download either through iTunes or actually pirate or steal for whatever website was available. It became an enormous problem. So we realised the value was going out of our industry, not just our business. And so we decided to diversify. So we diversified into electronics. We were already in the electronics business, but we saw an opportunity there to grow into home cinema. So we created a home cinema division where we installed cinemas and TVs and things. We were also in the musical instrument business, so we expanded our range. All the time trying to protect our core business by doing other things. So as adversity hits your business, the only answer is to adapt and to diversify. And that's what we did. But and the other thing too is interesting to tell your viewers, Dale, is that every retailer or every service provider must decide what business they're in.
Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, are they in the price business, like the discounters, if you're in retail, or are they in the experience business? And it's really important to identify that. Now, I was in the experience business. I had one store and we were attracting customers from all over Brisbane by this time. And it was because we were giving our customers an experience when they came to us, because we knew how to keep them there. Tell your neighbours to come over. We got such and such. Olivia's coming next week. We were all the time pushing the experience business because we didn't discount. And we couldn't afford to discount because the margins were so thin as they were declining, as prices were dropping with the internet, and our shopping centre overheads were huge in rents. So you must decide what business you're in. Certainly we weren't in the price business, we never were, and we never needed to discount, because we made up for that by giving people a reason to do business with us and enjoy what we did.
Fantastic. So you kind of realised the fact that that the whole industry was in decline, and you said about knowing what business you were in, and then you said diversifying and adapting. That was really important. So tell me a little bit more about when you finally realised that it was time to shut down the business. How did that affect you personally? Did you feel like you had failed? I know that there's been lots of times whereby many entrepreneurs have been down that path, including myself, having to close down a business. How did that affect you?
No, look, it was a difficult time closing a business that defined me, because it defined me. That was my business for 27 years of being the retailer that people knew, that they enjoyed being with us, and their families grew up with us. But no, there's no such thing as failure. I never felt a failure. Failure is only a failure if you fail to learn about what you're doing wrong. So I never ever thought it was a failure. But what we needed to do was adapt. We needed to move on. And there were a number of factors that I should tell you. Firstly, it wasn't just the internet that was driving margins and prices down, but we were in a shopping centre that was under incredible competition from a major shopping centre that was about to explode like a battleship. Only 5 kilometres away, Westfield were re-energising a new super centre. And because where we were at Toombul, it was a secondary centre, and the shopping centre was coming under severe competition from this. The customer evaporation was huge. So we had, compounded with that, with the fact that our industry was failing, it was a choice to either adapt or die. And so we made the tough decision, and we were one of the first of the music businesses to close and make that decision before it affected our long-term assets by superannuation. So it was a smart move to close when we did. It was just before the GFC, but I had this idea in my mind. I thought, if I can't sell physical product in a brick and mortar store, surely I can still use my knowledge and my love of music. I know the songs, I know what drives people to buy music, and I know the generation that will still want to buy music, and that's the generation of the baby boomers. So I had this idea about compiling a series of songs for the baby boomers when they're in their Winnebagos and on the road. So
idea.
I always have had, even to this day, a wonderful relationship with Sony, who was the old CBS company I worked for anyway. So I approached my friend at Sony, head of Sony, and I put the idea to him. Why don't we do a compilation album for the boomers on the road of the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, because when they're out there in the bush, radio isn't that great, and they still want to buy a physical product. And let's call it Music for Cruising. So he liked the idea, and the first album we released was On the Road Again. And do you know, Dale, that series turned into 14 double albums. They're still available today. And my friend at Sony, the chairman of Sony, Dennis Hanlon, last year presented me with that ARIA Gold Album Award, because sales of that series are now reaching 45,000 units. So it's an example of, let's not get out of what you love. The old model's over, let's find a new way. But my job has always been connecting people to what I love, and that's the music. And it's been a very successful series for me.
So just to summarise, what advice would you give to someone else that's going through a tough time in their business? You know, soldier on, fight back, don't take no for an answer, you know, or what you were saying before around diversifying and looking at other kind of income streams?
Well, all of those things, but 3 words: adapt or die. You can't face the storm clouds that were approaching us, because those storm clouds turned into a cyclone, and that cyclone was the internet. You can't challenge things like that that are out of your control. But what is in your control is your own personal integrity, your own personal finances, and your own personal drive of what you love. Hey, I love this business. And even though I've been doing it all these years, I worked in a record company, I played in a band when I was a youngster, and now I've had a great period of time in a music store, and that's over. What next? And I was able to then put my knowledge into these compilations of, well, I knew the songs they wanted. It's been highly successful. So to answer your question, diversify, or be courageous enough, have the courage to realise, is it over? And if it is over, find a way to move on, not hang on, as so many small businesses do today. They hang on. Look at news agencies, they're struggling. Pharmacy is under enormous pressure. The publishing industry is under enormous. Music was just the beginning. Video stores have gone. And so many people have lost their livelihood or their real assets that they worked all their life for by hanging in too long. Adapt or die. Get out and move on.
Great advice. All right, we're going to take one more short break. When we get back, we're going to go into the final part of this interview with Barry Bull about how to turn adversity into massive success. Keep watching. Welcome back to the third and final part of our interview with Barry Bull, where you're going to be learning all about the Bullseye Principle. What is it? Well, you're about to find out. Barry, tell us about this Bullseye Principle and about why it's been so important to your journey and how it's helped others as well.
Dale, they're my rules of engagement, but over a long period of time. About 10 years ago, I wrote a book called The Bullseye Principle. But what I really wanted to achieve was to decide what were the steps that I took over my long-term career, back in the record company, and then my Turnbull Music days, that was led to my success, getting rid of what didn't work and putting in what did work. And it took me weeks, not days, to define the 7 steps that really work for me. And I'll share them with you today because I call them my Bullseye Principle. Which is really, to get where you want to go, you need to decide what it is you want and develop a strategy to get it by setting realistic goals, stretching your limits, solving problems, never losing sight of your target, and always having a strategy to get it. That's my Bullseye Principle. And there are 7 of them, and I call them my rules of engagement over my career.
All right, so is this a time to get a pen and paper if you write
well,
them
there's
down?
7 of them,
Okay.
and they're really, I'll go through them briefly with you, but you have to go through each step at a time because you can't go from 3 to 5. It doesn't work that way. You fail. It begins with number 1, which is setting your sights. What is it you want to achieve? And what is it you want to do? Now, in my example, I just told you I wanted to find a way to move away from Turnbull Music, but still sustain my career in the music industry. So I started my own record label, and that was my sight. Have my own record label and compile music for others to enjoy. How do I go about it? Well, number 2 is planning the process. I went to Sony Music. And I gave them my idea, and I gave them I set some goals as to how we would go about it, and they signed it. They agreed to do it. The next is implementing the strategy. How do you then set your sights? You know what you want to do. You set your goals, but how do you achieve it? Well, then that's where the marketing kicks in. So what I did is I went to the caravan shows. I went right back to the customer, and I took my Music for Cruising to where people were selling caravans and Winnebagos. And I began to market it to the real consumer looking for music while they're travelling around Australia. And I found that was so successful. I didn't do it forever, but I did it for a while. And that's setting a strategy. The next step is number 4, dealing with the issues. Now that's the hard one. You can't go from 3 to 5. You can't bypass dealing with the issues. And in my experience, all the years I've worked with other business folk like you have, solving problems is the most difficult. If you don't deal with your problems, you don't deal with the issues, you can't move on. And problems are distraction, procrastination, no words, negatives, all those things we find that hold us back and think, oh, I have my goal there, but it's taken me so long to get it. So dealing with the issues and solving the problems. Number 5 is measuring performance. How well are we doing? How is this plan working? How well is my Music for Cruising CDs really selling at Sony? Whoa, 40,000 units. It's time to give me a Gold Album Award. And you know how I feel about awards. Winning an award all of a sudden got me television exposure and kicked the series along again. The next step, number 6, is a hard one. It's discipline and determination. It's that 90% mark that I mentioned before about no is negotiable. And this is where no is negotiable fits in. 90% of people give up when they're 10% from achieving their goals. And this is number 6 of the 7, is having the determination, having the commitment, having the passion to see the whole journey through to really achieve your goal. And of course, number 7 is hitting the bullseye and reaping the rewards. And it's been remarkably successful for me. And no matter what I do in business, whether it's in a sporting mode or work with my grandchildren, watching them develop, or training others, I always go to this bullseye principle because I promise your viewers it really works. It's my rules of engagement. You don't need any more than 7, but you can't do it in 6.
Yeah.
It really works.
All right, so let's quickly just read them off one more time just to make sure that everyone's got down all 7. So let's quickly just...
The first one is setting your sights.
Setting
Where
your
is it
sights.
you want to go? The next one is planning the process, how you're going to get there.
Number 2, yep.
Number 3 is implementing the strategy, marketing, getting people involved in what you're doing, getting them excited. Number 4 is dealing with the issues. That's the big one. That's where most people fail at that. They can't get over that one. Solve your problems and you'll achieve your goals.
Yeah.
Number 5 is measuring the performance. How well are we doing? Are we making any money? Are we profitable? Is this a good idea? Am I enjoying it? Number 6 is the discipline and determination, having the courage to go to the end, make sure that the whole dream is fulfilled, get there. And because by number 6, the game's changing, the rules are changing. And like in my case, digital changed the world. So how do you deal with that and still achieve your goals? And of course, once you do that, number 7 is reap the rewards, hit the bullseye. And that's where I am in life now, to be honest with you. I'm reaping the rewards, loving what I'm doing, and I'm at that stage where I've hit the bullseye of my life. You asked me to come and have a chat. I'd love the idea of coming and having a chat because I admire what you're doing and I'm honoured to be able to participate in your program. But to me, there's no finishing line. There's no finishing line. There's so much more to engage in life if you pursue your passion, because my passion is music. It'll always be there. So today, what I'm doing 2 things, and I know you're about to ask me this, what next?
Yeah.
What next is so exciting because now I'm in retirement, which is a dumb word. I don't really know what it is, but I work hard at retirement, and retirement for me is really harder than running my business. I live at Mooloolaba on Queensland's beautiful Sunshine Coast. I belong to a group of swimmers who swim the ocean every morning. So I swim a K in the ocean every morning. It's so exhilarating with a bunch of like-minded people, and it's a great start to the day. And you know what? I'm back to playing that Fender guitar. The guitar that started it all for me with that song all those years ago has sat in its case for 40 years. I got it out in the last couple of years, and I'm doing concerts now. Rather than telling people how I did it, like we're talking about now, I play the song that ignited me. I play the songs that I loved through my years of career. I tell stories about Neil Diamond and Billy Joel and Cliff Richard and the people I met. All the photographs are there to support those stories. Play the songs with this old 50-year-old Fender guitar. And it's a concert that I call A Little Bull Goes a Long Way. And that was my first book, and branding to me is so important. You know, the red shirt, the red branding, and that was my best brand. So I call my concerts A Little Bull Goes a Long Way. So I'm travelling around Queensland doing these concerts, but primarily to raise money for charity. And I've got a wonderful cause that's driving me at the moment. My grandson, okay if I share this with you?
Sure, please.
My grandson was born deaf. He's my latest grandson. Beautiful little boy, 80% hearing loss. And he needed help, so my daughter researched hearing aids, and that wasn't going to be the answer. The answer was a cochlear implant, an amazing invention by an Australian. And there's wonderful support organisations around Australia that support that initiative. And Queensland has Hear and Say, which is a wonderful organisation that they're funded 30% by the government and the rest is by charity work. And they help the parents to decide how to choose the right cochlea. Is it one ear? Is it bilateral? The right operation. They guide them through that process, and then once the cochlear implant is done on the child, then there's years of therapy and training, speech control, teaching children to really join the world, because if they can't hear, they can't speak.
Yeah.
And this is a wonderful thing. So I'm a community champion these days, as they call me, for Hear and Say, and I have this great promotion, presentation that I do, concert, called The Gift of Sound.
Yeah.
And my little man is involved in that with his journey, and I raise money for Hear and Say, and it's a I feel really good about that. There's no finishing line, Dale.
Yep. Wonderful. Well, thanks so much. We could talk all day. Really appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom with everybody.
Thank you.
We're going to need to wrap up there. If you'd like to find out more information about Barry Bull, about his concerts, about his many books that he's published, then you can head to our website and follow the links. Go to brin.ai/experts and then just search for the name Barry Bull. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Secrets Exposed. We look forward to seeing you again real soon. Bye for now.